Hey, what's going on, guys? It is GameMan here, and welcome back to Steam. Whoop, lag. Welcome back to Steam and Steel. Today we're going to be discussing all of the locomotives, but we're going to first discuss the two new ones: the Class O A0, Class H2. We're going to start with the Class A0 because I'm already here. This locomotive is an 420 type locomotive. Quite a unique locomotive. I don't believe I have ever personally seen a locomotive that ever looks like this in real life. The only other place I have ever seen the Class A0 would be in Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks. I believe this is like the first game you get. That might have been a different locomotive. I'm not too certain. This locomotive has a whopping pulling power of 11,737. It's a good engine. It's very good, but the tender will add the costs to it. Now, all of my prices are 20% off, so I would like to elaborate that. The price of this locomotive is $4,101. It's a good engine. Very good. At least in the early game, it is very good. If you're trying to pull the world with this locomotive, it's gonna struggle. It's gonna have a tough time doing that. But the other locomotive, the H2, I am very excited to talk about because the H2 I've been putting through its trials, and oh my goodness, this H2 is a Goliath. It is an 080 tender engine, which is a little different than the H1. The H1 is an 080, but it is a tank engine. So this one you have to have a tender for. This one I've named Goliath. It is a beastly locomotive. It comes in at a staggering, I think it's 45,000 power. Let me just take a look here. Yeah, 45,227. It is a monster of a locomotive. It is very good at what it does. It does struggle a little bit at the moment, and I'm wondering if that's just a coding error or something like that. It's a new locomotive, so all benefit of doubts. It is really good at hauling the world at very slow speeds. Its top speed is 30, but when it's going slow, it hauls really well. At higher speeds, it's not as powerful, and that's the case with most of these locomotives. But it is very good. So to establish how many locomotives I have officially on my railroad, I have 15 steam locomotives. 15 of them. It's incredible how many locomotives I have. 2 of them are duplicates. Engine number 4 over here, Black Beauty, I believe is an A class? Hang on, let me check that. I think it's an I can't remember which one it is. It's hard for me to remember. I have so many of them. I think it's an A2? No, which one is it? Like I said, it's an E class. It's the E class. Oh. So yeah, the E class, the Class E. This engine is very good at 20,527. It is exceptionally good. Where did my mouse go? It's very good. It does a whole lot of work, and I have 2 of them. I have this one here, number 4, and number 7 over in the copper mine. Number 7 doesn't ever leave the copper mine. This engine is very good at helping. It pulls a lot. It pulls quite a bit, but it does have the benefit of being a great helper. So we're going to do a run session here in a little bit, but I'm going to rank, in my opinion, from number 13 to number 1, which locomotives I think are the best. And we're going to do that through the store. So if you don't want to see the whole ranking thing and the boring bits of the ranks, go ahead and skip to the timestamp of the run session where we are going to use our newest engine, number 15. We're going to use number 15 to haul some insanely heavy stuff. At least in my opinion, it's quite heavy. But right now we're going to skip to the ranking. So coming in at 13th place for me is the Class B. It's a great locomotive. Don't get me wrong. It's a great locomotive. It hauls the world with 30,653 and has a huge top speed of 56 miles an hour. But with that speed, on certain railroads, it's not effective. If you have tight turns and you are hauling really long trains, This engine is not the best. It's good for the speed. It's good for the speed and the strength. Where did it go? It's good for the speed and the strength, but I've noticed that depending on if you're running at really high speeds or really low speeds, it burns through fuel. It burns through fuel quite heavily. And I don't know if that's just because of how we run the locomotive here on this railroad, me and my friends and my brother, but the engine isn't the best. It's good for what you get, but it's not the best. Coming in at 12th place is the Class A1. Again, this is an early locomotive. This engine is a very early locomotive, but it is a tender engine, so you have to pay the extra price, which you can see over here for a tender, either a two-axle tender or the uh, either the two-axle tenders, or if you really want, you can get three-axle tender. But I would more recommend giving it one of the two-axle tenders because those benefit it more because of its pulling power of 14,671. It's a good early game locomotive, but when you get into the later games, moving it into a service that it's efficient for, you'd want a medium to light train to haul with it. But it's also like the E class. It's very good for banking and helping out where it can, and it's also exceptionally good at pulling early game trains. It's very good for that. Coming in at 11th place, I think it's 11th place, could be 12th place, I'm sorry. Coming in next is the Class F. This is a 222 locomotive that is also a tender engine. This is a mid-tier game locomotive in my opinion because it's got 20,684 pulling power with a 41 mile an hour speed, but it still also requires a tender. It's good. This engine is great for your medium tier trains. It's really good for the medium tier trains and getting them where you need to go as quick as possible. The locomotives are if it's a beautiful engine. It does suffer from wheel slip quite heavily when you're starting off. It suffers from wheel slip, but it gets the job done. It really do. Coming in at the 10th place spot is the Class C, your starting locomotive. I still have my Class C. It is not under Steam and we don't use it anymore, but it is a beautiful, beautiful early game starting locomotive. You can pick these up for a pretty darn cheap price in the early game if you really do need a second engine. But it will do everything and anything you throw at it. It pulled so many trains across the line when we first got started in the map that it was just amazing. It was a beautifully hard-working locomotive. But as the trains got bigger and the trains got heavier, it started to struggle. It really does not like hauling the heavier, larger cars. It'll do it, but it doesn't want to. With only 9,769 pulling power and being a tank engine, it's stupidly useful for the trains. It can go all over the map if you really try. We're on the Coal Valley map for anyone who's interested. But at 10th place, this engine does what it's meant to do. Coming in at 9th place, in my personal opinion, in 9th place is the Class N, an 060 saddle tank locomotive with 25,048 pulling power. This is another expensive locomotive, and the speed is where this thing bites. It's only 19 I'm assuming this is 19 miles an hour, but the speed should not affect the performance of the locomotive. If you want a tank engine late to mid game and you want an engine that will do a lot of work and be a good, well-rounded, mixed locomotive, this one's the one for you as a tank engine. It does all the small tasks, can handle just about anything you throw at it. There's a few exceptions to the rule, but if you want an engine that is mostly for yard work, this is the engine for you. It has beautiful strength when it comes to working in the yards. It works magnificently. And that's why it is firmly at number 9. Coming in at number 8 is the one I was just talking about in the beginning, the Class E. It's a good engine. It's well-rounded. It's an expensive locomotive, yes, so you want to build up the money to get it when you do. But this will easily replace your Class C. Class C. It will replace your Class C pretty darn quick, but it's good. It does everything I keep saying it does everything you want it to do, but it really, when I say that, I do mean it. It will put in the work, it will put in the effort. And the beautiful part about this, I have never once seen this locomotive slip. It grips the rails beautifully as an 042. It does the job magnificently. And it's got 20,527 pulling power. It is awesome. It is a great engine, and getting multiple of them is very good because they're, again, a beautiful mixed locomotive. They can haul heavy goods, they can haul light goods. They're great for yard work, but they're amazing at helping the other locomotives out if you need that extra oomph, that extra help. Coming in at number 7 is one of the oldest engines in the game, the Class G. This used to be the beast, the brute. This was the strong engine in the early game, and it still is a quite strong locomotive at 29,809. It's good. It's good. It's not fast. It's not fast with only 19 miles per hour. It ain't fast in any semblance of the word speed, but it's strong. Any of the heavy trains that you have, it can do. Going up really steep grades, like past 2%, it will have a fight with, but it will do it. It occasionally does need assistance on my railroad specifically. It needs help, but it is a beautiful early game brute engine. You want an engine early game that'll do the job, it's the engine for you. The downside is this is a tender engine. It needs a tender behind it, and I would strongly recommend getting the 3-axle tender. We're going to take a look at it. Oh, it's looking. I would strongly recommend getting this 3-axle tender for it. It may be a heavy tender at 16 tons, but the distance that it gives you is what makes it beautiful. It's a great engine, and that is why I believe that where is it? The Class G is the engine for early game brute strength. Coming in at yeah, coming in at 6th place is the B2. Now the B2, where the B1 fails when it comes to having issues of being fast, this one does not have, well, not fails. The issue of it being fast, this one doesn't have it. At 32,466, the engine is great. It's an early to mid game engine if you really try. It's more of a mid tier engine, but it's also a tender engine, and I would strongly recommend getting the 3-axle tender for this one. It just fits better. And considering how much work you will put this locomotive through, the larger tender is necessary. But it is great. It hauls all of the heavy stuff, it can haul the little stuff. I've had this haul a 13-car train full of copper ore, and it does it. It'll do it. It'll haul beams, it'll haul logs, it'll haul anything. Um, it is not great with tight corners. It's not great with the tight corners, but for a good long distance train, this is the one for you coming in at its spot. Coming in at top 5, we've got none other than the J1. This engine is good. At top 5, it's a good late tier locomotive, again, a tender engine, but it is good at 37,270, and with 32 miles an hour, an 044 is pretty darn fast. It's a good engine. It is great for the mid to late tier game. It is so good. It's got great strength. It does the job well. The downside is the weighting of the locomotive. It's 35.5 tons, and most of that weight is on the drivers. And even though the weight is well distributed onto the drivers, this thing will slip like mad. It slips. So getting up to speed is going to be kind of the tricky part. But once you get up to speed, it's the engine for you. Coming in top 5. Top 4, beating the locomotive out by just a little bit, is the J2. A different wheel arrangement. It is a 260 mogul locomotive, and it is great. It is the engine that I've been using the most. It does everything. It's a good engine, and it was at the time one of the biggest engines you could get. It is still incredibly great for what you get. Even though it's a tender engine, it's great. It does so many good things, and at top 3 or top 4, it's very good. It is a late game engine coming in at the price. It is a late game engine, but this will definitely replace a lot of your tank engines, except for maybe the ones you use in the yard. This one will replace a lot of your smaller locomotives and easily easily outclass them. Without a doubt, it'll do a lot of great work. Coming in at top 4. Coming in at the third place is the A2. Now, a lot of people say that the A2, I've seen reviews on it that the A2 is a great early game engine, and that's why it is top 3. It is one of the best early game engines I think you can get your hands on. It does come at the price of having to buy a tender, which does kind of hamper it a little bit, but it is awesome. It is so good. Now, originally, the A2 had bunkers on the side of it. Right here in the back area, if we turn around, where these boards used to be, where the bar here is, it used to have bunkers. So it used to carry coal, but the update came through and a better version of it came out. I did have the original locomotive, and it was good. It did great. It still needed a tender because the amount of coal it carried was not a lot, but it was still a great locomotive. If you have the original A2, I would say keep it. I wouldn't say scrap it, I would say keep it because it's good. And just get the A2 and replace it. Use the other A as a yard engine. Just use it to shuffle about the yard, things like that. That's why it comes in at third place. Coming into our top 2 best locomotives is none other than the H class. Oh my god, if you get a hold of this locomotive early game, kudos. You will not need another locomotive to do any other work. It is the second strongest locomotive in the game, coming in at a whopping 44,478. It is a brute. It is just the emphasis of amazing operations. And one of the things I like about the H class is the external running gear. Looking at the Stevenson operate externally, it was the first external locomotive out, in the game. It had the first external running gear. It was awesome. It's really good. The reason it is not number 1 is because of its speed. That's it. That's the only reason it is not number 1. At 19 miles an hour, this will not be a fast engine in the slightest. It's a good locomotive. Actually, it's great. There's no other way to put it. This engine does what it needs to do and more. And we're going to have an honorable mention here. This is not a locomotive. This is your brake van, your 20-ton brake van coming in at 21 tons. This brake van is crucial, in my opinion, when running long trains. You want to, if you have a multiplayer session of at least 4 or 5 people, you need at least one person on your long end trains riding the shove, riding the back of the train to make sure everything goes well. Because when you're backing up with a 13, 14, 15 car train, you can't see all the way in the back. You just can't. It's not very easy to see your back of your train. If you have like a 4 or 5 car train, 6 car train at best, I don't say you need these. But as an honorable mention, I've noticed that the handbrake on this thing is beefy. Like, you put this handbrake on the brake van and it does not move. It will not budge. You get a strong enough engine, it'll budge. It'll move. But you put this on a train, it ain't going anywhere. But having it as a safety precaution is a great thing. It is well-rounded. It is a beautiful car. And that is why it's an honorable mention. The only other honorable mentions are the tenders. The tenders, there are 3 of them in the game. This one here, the RSR 2-axle tender, is your early game tender. It's very good. I love it. I used it all the time. In fact, one of my engines had this originally and got upgraded. I upgraded the tender so that it could go longer and do more. This tender is an early game saver for your tender engines. It does the job with plenty of coal, plenty of water, do the job, but there is a better 2-axle tender out there, and that is the KDNS 2-axle. It's got a little more coal and a little more water, and it's a little heavier. But I like the design of this one. This one is very nice, very well done. I love the decals on it. The design is nice. It reminds me of an early 1880s tender. And it's very nice. It's very nice. It's very good. It's another early game tender that is just, if you don't want the RSR tender, get this one because it just looks cool. Last but not least is the RSR 3 axle. This one is a beef of a tender. It will. I have yet to run out of coal on this tender accidentally. On purpose, I tested it once, running the same train for several sessions without filling it up. And my game sessions on the map usually last 1 to 3 hours. It took like 2 sessions of operation before this tender ran out of coal, and then you had to fill it up. That's the only thing that may be a pain, is waiting for this tender to fill up if you max it out and like run out of coal entirely. That is the only downside. The water capacity is massive. Your tender engines, I guarantee you, if the water feature does come out, it's not gonna run out of fuel. It's not. And if you do, that's okay because there's many ways to fill it up, and it's just a beef of a tender. It is very heavy, so the smaller engines may struggle to carry this around. So I'd say use this more on your bigger engines, like the H class, the J classes, um, even the one we're going to talk about, the B classes. Use that on this, but it's good. And now for our number one. Clocking for the number one top pick for me of locomotives is the newest one, the H2. Being the strongest locomotive in the game and being a late engine game, for the game, it is the one. It is the brute strength you want as a tender engine. The H2 is second place because it is the strongest tank engine. So if you want a good engine that is just a beefy locomotive that does anything and everything you want it to do, this is the engine for you. My God, it is great. With a 3-axle tender, it just does the work. And I love the external running gear. It is beautiful. You can look at this external running gear, and it moves, and it operates, and it spins, and it does everything. And this long bar here, the piston rod and all this stuff, the timing rod, everything, it's beautiful. It's a good 080, and it's awesome. The only thing right now is I don't see it currently carrying the 45227 that it has. I've tried hauling up steep grades with this. I've tried hauling my 13 car trains with this, and it right now seems to struggle, but at slow speeds, genuinely, at slow speeds, if you're really slogging it out, it'll go. It wheel slips, which is okay, but that's usually if you're running it incorrectly, it'll wheel slip, but if it got grip, it gonna go. And that is why the H2 is my number one pick for Steam and Steel at this moment. And with that being said, let's actually operate the H2 so I can show you what I mean by it's a great locomotive. I love the H2, and on this railroad, it's what I need. So let's get this sucker fired up. I don't think it has any steam pressure. Oh, my boiler ain't showing. That's weird. So it's got a little boiler pressure in it. We're going to use that boiler pressure to bring it out of the roundhouse here. So we're going to just ease it out onto the turntable. I absolutely adore the whistles on these bigger engines. The beefier whistle I like a whole lot more than I do the high-pitched shrill ones, but that's just coming from me not really liking shrill whistles. I prefer the deep whistles, the guttural whistles, if you will. But this is just a good engine. It really is. Now, one thing I want to see, I think I've talked about this before, but I'd like to see this, is a way to change the direction of where the turntable moves. I don't know if there's a way to do that. If anyone knows the way to flip the turntable, make it go the other direction, that would be sweet. That would be awesome. I'd love to hear the information. I love reading the comments and being like, okay, what's available, what's not, what have you. But this engine is so good. It is so good. Today, we're actually going to go and interchange with the second railroad, the RNG, on the line. There's 2 railroads. I built 2 of them because I felt that one wasn't enough. So we're going to interchange with the RNG. Even though we don't really need to interchange with the RNG, I would like to run across that line with this engine and see what it can do. Because, like I've said, I've tested this engine on the heavier stuff, but it's not gone up the crazy insanity that the RNG is. And the RNG stands for Rio, Northern, and Great Western. Because apparently, issues. So we're going to go ahead and start firing this thing up, and when it's fired up, we'll get back to you. One thing I forgot to mention is while I'm firing up here, the boiler pressure of all these locomotives is different. Most of them clock out at like 7 bar-ish, give or take. I think the lowest I've ever seen is 6 bar. That's about the lowest I've ever seen of a boiler pressure. This one I think clocks in at like 8, 9 bar. So this has got a huge boiler pressure, which is where I think its brute strength comes from, is when you're shoving that boiler pressure, that 9 bar into the cylinders. I mean, it's great. I think the highest the cylinders go is like 6 bar, something like that. But it really does do the work. And one of my favorite things, I'm going to show this off here, is when I move the reverser. I love watching that running gear move. Seeing that work just like the real thing is amazing. It's so fluid. It's so fluid. Alright, so we've got about 5 bar on the system now. The firebox is nice and fully loaded, so we're gonna start moving here. And we're gonna actually pick up a cordwood train. I thought we were gonna pick up cattle today, but we don't need to pick up cattle. We need to pick up cordwood. So we're gonna go and we're gonna pick up the cordwood. Now, normally I would wait till the safeties pop, but in this case, I'm going to just start moving. Over here, you can see All Reliable, your starting engine. It's just sitting over here on the museum track for now. If we do need it, I can back it up, give it some fuel, and we can use that engine as seen fit. But right now, we are not going to use All Reliable. We're going to use the 15 Reliant. I actually had a friend help me name this locomotive, and I had a real kick out of naming it. So we're going to go ahead and pick up our train, and when the train is picked up, we'll continue our adventure. There goes the safety. I think that's 8 bar. I'm pretty sure that's 8 bar. Maybe it's 9 bar. It's a little hard for me to read that dial. But we're going to set this train up for an adventure, and then, sadly, I got to end the recording section early. I've got a campaign I need to get through. I got some things I need to take care of. So we're actually going to do something a little unique. We're going to leave this train, this particular train, this cordwood train, we're going to leave it at interchange. And then in the next episode, we'll go and operate over the RNG, and we will show that railroad off. So let me go ahead and put this over in the interchange yard, and we'll see how it goes. So to quickly show off what I mean by wheel slip, there's a little bit of steam in the chest, but if I open this wide, it'll slip. It's not slipping that bad, but, I do love watching these. I do. It's really bad on the locomotive when it feels like that, but, like I said, when this thing gets up to speed and it just wants to go. That's all it wants to do is go. It's fast. You can see we're running at a pretty decent speed here. It's actually going to slow down a little bit. This yard is not quite built for that. Slow down. There we go. The brakes aren't squealing, which I love. That it's just got such beefy brakes that it's not going to squeal. But we're gonna keep going here. There goes the safety. I'm not changing the head code just yet because we're only technically doing the yard off. But we're gonna go and show off the interchange point, and you guys can see what I mean by how I built interchange, or at least one of the interchanges. So I struggled building this railroad by myself, so my brother helped me out quite a bit. Shout out to him; he's an awesome dude. He helped me build this railroad, and a lot of it is his work. But the RNG is entirely my work. It is not. I'm not proud of it. Actually, I am, the gradients and stuff on it, that's what I'm not proud of. I am not proud of all the grades and stuff on the RNG. But I mean, it's not horrible. It's not horrible. Those sinkies are so loud. Come on. Good God. Turn that down a bit. Sorry for blasting your ears with that. Alright, so we're coming up here to, and you can see the tracks up here going up the ways. We're gonna pull off and we're gonna continue. Did I take the wrong track? I did, unfortunately. That's okay. I'm on the main line. I should have been over here on these yards. The yard lead, whatever. So this is interchange over here, at least the main interchange, I would say. This yard is really only used, in my opinion, to if I have to house extra equipment, I will. But more often than not, I've used it to interchange with the RNG. And really, the RNG is a loop. I haven't built an actual proper kind of like what I would consider a model railroad design of a line, but it loops on itself, and it makes it easier, in my opinion, to make a loop, because that way you don't have to keep backing up down the mains or things like that. Oh, threw the switch a little early there, my bad. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna how are we gonna do this? You know what? I'll just take it up this track. It'll be fine if I take it up this track. We'll back it up here, and we'll throw the switch. We'll put the reverser. We'll put it in full forward. Why not? Just use as little steam as possible. Maybe we're using a lot. I think actually, yeah, we're using quite a bit of steam to make this operation take place. But we'll stick this over in Bay 1. I think that's the wisest idea, is to put it over in the first bay. We'll throw that switch. Is that the one I want to throw? No, that is not the one to throw. Everything looks actually quite well aligned. Is this going to fit in the... Oh, yeah, it'll fit. It'll fit in this track. So this track here is to park the locomotives. At least that's the plan for that area, is to park them over there. Let's throw the switch, and we'll leave this over at interchange for now. And in the next episode, we'll run over on the RNG. The RNG has some locomotives of its own. I did not count those in the count of the main line. They're their own locomotives. So they've got two engines. I think they have a Class N and a Class A? I think it's a Class A. It could be a Class C if I remember right. I don't remember. Our first locomotive, the class, I know the Class C did work over there for a while, but it is not currently over there, obviously. But we're gonna leave these over in interchange, and then we will call it there. So, did I change the head code? I did not. Well, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it's a bit all over the place and what have you, and it's been a very long time. Oh, I hear a train outside. How convenient. But anyway, I love playing this game. If you guys want to see more of this game, or even want to join me in Steam and Steel on this railroad, I am more than willing to open it up to certain people who ask. I will open it up and let people join me in operations. Just let me know if you want to see more videos like this, or you want to see more Steam and Steel videos. You want to see us do an actual full-blown op session. I've got a lot of people who I can do op sessions with, which would be a lot of fun. And yeah, I just love this game. It's such a good, beautiful game to just play. I've gotten lost, I don't know how many hours just playing this game. And it's so fun. It's so fun. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notification button, become part of the gamer team. Go check out my other channel, Gamerman4014. That's where all of my vlogs from Twitch go up, because I do stream on Twitch. I haven't streamed in a while, but I do stream on Twitch occasionally, and it is a blast. It is a hell of a lot of fun streaming over on Twitch. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you next.